sorry, this is the article that I used for fake evidence to show how to use evidence properly. And so here's my works cited entry that I'm going to be using. And it has everything done correctly. I'm pretending that this is on the bottom page. And I took a quote from it on page 2. Okay, so this is from page 2. And I'm going to use this quote for all my examples on how to use evidence properly. And there's a 3-step method that was taught to me by my first teacher when I was getting my master's program. And he said, I was doing it wrong, and I definitely was. I was like just putting quotes there in hopes that it was proving what I wanted it to prove with the things that it was trying to say. And he said, you're making a mess of it, Jonathan. You need to fix this. He said, the method is simple. You first make a claim. You then quote evidence from your source for support with in-text citations, and then expand on that claim using the quoted support. So here it's going to be many examples on how to do this. The first example is keeping everything separate as described by my professor who told me how to go about doing this. And I color-coded it to make it easy to see. So here's my claim. Creating anti-cancer drugs had been found in unexpected sources as of late. Yeo, that happens to be the author, Yeo. Yeo says, don't use the first name by the way, always use the last name. And this is in the present tense because that quote still exists and I'm using it right now. I say says. Everything else for your essay needs to be in the past tense. And this is the quote that I used. Although indirubin itself is a very promising chemical in various applications, the cost-effective preparation in indirum from waste blue jeans can be applied to a variety of anti-cancer reagent synthesis in the future. The reason why it says although in there is because this indirubin is used for a lot of things, okay, various applications. But its most cost-effective one happens to be for making anti-cancer reagents. So I'm explaining to you what that says and what that means. And then I have my in-text citation, which was found on page 2. And I put that in parenthesis, and I put a period on the outside of the parenthesis, but nothing right here in the quote. And the reason for that is because a period says in any sentence, stop right there. But the in-text citation is part of the sentence, so I can't stop right there. I need to continue my sentence with my in-text citation telling me my page number and then a period on the other side. Now, why? Why am I just putting a number 2? Because what MLA cares about is who the author is. Who said this? Where can I find it? Well, this is who said it, and here's where they can find it. And I can take a look at Yeo, I can compare it to my works cited, which would be on the bottom, and then I can know, okay, it's on page 2 of this source. Then I expand on my claim. With blue jeans being prevalent worldwide, there is no shortage of the supply that they can offer in the creation of new anti-cancer medicines. All right, makes sense. Claim, quote, expansion using the quote. That's keeping everything separate. Example 2 keeps everything separate too, but it approaches it slightly differently in how it does its in-text citation. So my claim is the same, but instead of using the author's name, I say a study says, and then I quote it. And after my quote, I use the author's name and the page number because I have to mention the author someplace in an in-text citation to give them a credit. Now, the in-text citation is not just this. The in-text citation includes how you introduce it because they are related. They affect one another. If I don't mention the author here, I have to mention them there. Now, what if I don't have an author? We'll get to that. And my expansion here is the same in this method. But there is another way that I can approach this as well, which is, you notice it's a smiley face. It's not a star, which is to integrate it into a sentence. So the anti-cancer reagent indirin has been found in, and I just used a very small part of the quote, waste blue jeans. And still I must mention the author because the author is not mentioned in the midst of my sentence here. Here's my claim. Okay, here's my proof, it's colored in blue. And now my expansion has to change. My expansion requires more information because I gave less information in my claim and less information in my integrated quote. This readily available source will allow for inexpensive methods in creating new anti-cancer drugs. Notice I kept the meaning of that quote because that's important in my expansion because I am keeping everything on the up and up when that source is checked. And yes, I do check your sources. Example 4, using a colon. I have a mess sign. And for some of you, I said, don't do it. You're doing it wrong. And some of you didn't do it wrong. So I apologize. It's just not preferable. So here my claim is the same as my first one, but now I'm using a colon. And what a colon literally means is, and here's the reveal. So in order to use a colon, first and foremost, and you're using it for a quote, you need a complete sentence before it. And then secondly, you have to use just what you need as the maximum of what you have going on in your quote. And it has to be a reveal. So, creating anti-cancer drugs has been found in unexpected sources as of late. Indurabim, now these things that I'm doing with the brackets are saying, I've made a change here because it used to be lowercase. I made a change here, but I'm not changing the meaning. So indurabin itself, ellipsis, I'm now cutting out part of it to just give the reveal, from waste blue jeans can be applied to a variety of anti-cancer reagent synthesis in the future. Whoa, that's a reveal. If it's not a reveal, don't do it that way. If it's just a sharing, do it one of these two ways. Okay? Then I have my expansion, which was the same as before. Now notice I put the author's name and the page number here because in doing it this way, I can't name the author. The author should not ever enter into my claim because my claim has to be about my argument in my essay, not about the articles. So that's why I'm like, don't use a colon because you'll be tempted to say, Yeo says creating anti-cancer drugs has been found in unexpected sources as of late. The problem is, Yeo didn't say that. I'm saying that based on the research that Yeo did. So be very careful. If you do it this way, it has to be your claim. It's got to be the quote. Put the author there and put a page number. However, I am meh-ing this. Meh. Don't do it that way as a regular. And really don't do it at all. But I'm telling you it's there so then you know what's happening when you see it and you know that it's available. But the first two with the stars are the preferences. I got straight A's. I never got straight A's ever in my life. I got straight A's through my master's program with this 3-step method because it was clear, it was thorough, and it separated my claims from my support from the expansion onto my argument. Okay, so that is the preferable way. Now, what if I don't have an author? If there is no author from your source, here's 2 choices. Choice number 1, an article states, and there's my quote, it's exactly the same as before, and then I put the first few words of the name of that resource, conversion of recycled, put that in quotes inside my parenthesis, and then the page number. Or I can put the name of the article first. Conversion of a recycled indigo from waste blue jeans and an indurabum anti-cancer drug states, and we know that it's an essay. You don't have to say, in the essay, conversion of a recycled. You can, but you don't have to. States, and there's my same quote. Notice I'm not doing the claims or the expansions. This is just how you do different in-text citations. And then I just put the page number. But what if I have no author and no page numbers? If that's the case, there's only one way you are able to do in-text citations. An article states, comma. Although, there's my same quote. Then I put the name of the article or web page right there in quotes, and I end my in-text citation. This is your only option. Now, when you name a source again and again in an essay in the same paragraph and you haven't switched sources, and even if you're in the next paragraph and you haven't switched sources, you can then just use the page number. So I'm pretending that I did this one first. So let's do that. Creating anti-cancer drugs, blah, 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 blah. With blue jeans, okay, there in my in-text citation. I already named the author. I already gave a page number. And then later on in that same paragraph, I make a claim and I say the author states, I'm going to highlight this in the right color because I'm using evidence. An optimized bioconversion process was developed to produce a high yield of interim from tryptophan. That's on page 10. I don't need to name the author again because it's either in the same paragraph or I haven't switched sources, and I can just use the page number. However, this only works if you have page numbers. If you don't have page numbers and you don't have an author, you have to every single time put in that citation conversion of recycled or whatever the name of your article is. If you're in this situation, you can say, page numbers like conversion of recycled indigo, blah, blah, blah. Then you can continue to use page numbers. If you do it this way, an article states, and you have this and then page numbers, you better make sure that you do it this way instead. Because this way it refers back to that. Every single time you see a page number, they'll know. Okay, it's the same article, use a different page number, same article, or same page number, doesn't matter. But don't forget that whenever you introduce a new source, you have to start on over again, back to the beginning. I think that covers everything that happened in the meeting. Really shortened down to a few minutes because we did have some questions, some very good questions in the meeting, and unfortunately missed them because I forgot to hit record. So if you have any questions, by all means, please ask, because now those questions are not being answered in this video. If I remember correctly, here are some of the questions. Should my sources have this kind of indenting? The answer is yes. All your sources need to have this indenting. In this format, it's the same as works cited. I was also asked if can I have more than 5 sources in my annotated bibliography? And the answer is yes, you can have more than 5 sources, but you're only supposed to use 5 for your essay, because this way it makes sure that the majority of the words and the argument are yours. Remember, when you're writing your essay, you're going to make an argument and you're going to have the sources that you use back up your arguments, like in these examples. You're not reporting on what arguments your authors say. They're just supporting you. So you make the argument, use the facts and figures and information from those articles as your support, and then you expand on your argument. Okay, if you have any questions beyond that, absolutely let me know. Like I said, post it in 2 places. You can send me an email and you could post it, because I will answer in both places. And then this way, anyone else who has that question can hear the answers too. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. I'm sorry that I forgot to record it. It was a very good meeting. Thank you again for all those who were there. I'm sorry that I didn't do it properly. I just forgot to hit the little red button that said record. Happy writing.